Yep, so we're just going to give it a minute to fully set up. There we go. Okay, I think we're on. Hello, everyone. This is Meryl with Akron Soul Train, and tonight I am here with resident artist Ron Shelton and our special guest, Cathi, Lehn, PhD of Sustainability Cleveland, and Mila Susnjar of Summit Reworks to have a discussion about waste, plastics, sustainability, and how art can bring awareness to these issues. Ron Shelton is showing at the Burton D. Morgan Foundation exhibition space with fellow resident artist Nicole Condon-Shee as part of the show Woven, the Human X Nature Relationship. This show opens tomorrow with extended opening reception hours on Friday, September 10th from 11 to 7 p.m. Our normal gallery hours are Wednesday to Saturday from 11 to 4 p.m. Akron Soul Train is an artist residency program connecting and empowering the community and artists by granting fellowships that provide resources for all creative disciplines to foster a more vibrant Akron. Before we get going, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their continued support: the GAR Foundation, Akron Community Foundation, the Ohio Arts Council, Leonard Family Foundation, the Brennan Family Foundation, the Knight Foundation, the Char and Chuck Fowler Family Foundation, and the Corbin Foundation. Anyone viewing tonight, please feel free to comment below, ask questions, and we will try to get to them towards the end of the program probably. And also, please feel free to comment on this program or any of our other videos on Facebook or Instagram, how you like our virtual programming. We want to be able to keep bringing you thoughtful and creative programming. Okay, this really helps us do that. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started. I'm gonna have everyone introduce themselves, just really briefly, starting with Ron.
Yes, my name is Ron Shelton, multimedia artist based here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, and Mila?
My name is Mila Susnjar, and I work at the Solid Waste Management Authority for Summit County, and our name is Reworks, and I do education and promotion.
And Cathi.
Hi, I'm Cathi Lehn. I'm the Sustainable Cleveland Manager for the City of Cleveland, Mayor's Office of Sustainability, and my role in the office is to work with community members and to also lead our working groups. I also serve as program manager for Circular Cleveland.
Okay. I am so excited for this discussion. I think it's going to be really good and really helpful for everyone. So, Ron, are you ready to kind of start with your slides?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to get my screen up. Okay.
Yeah, there really wouldn't be my work in plastics if it wasn't for High Art Fridays. I started High Art Fridays on my Facebook page in 2003, and we've grown substantially. We have a large international population of artists. And one thing that I started to notice like 4 years ago was many of the artists were using plastics as a medium, creating really, innovative works out of plastics and making and addressing how plastics is impacting the environment. And so it changed my life. I stopped the medium that I was working with at the time. They were ephemeral mediums in ice and in chalk. And I just shifted to working in plastics. And I first did like a plastic audit for 1 month. I didn't recycle, didn't throw out any plastic item at all. I kept it. And the amount of plastics that I obtained, and it was in my apartment at the time, was just overwhelming, the amount of plastics that one person can generate. So that really changed my life. And I've been working in plastics for like 3 years. I've been exhibiting throughout Cleveland. I've had several shows internationally. And I want to first introduce you to some of the artists that sort of inspired my work in plastics. Next slide. This is Patrick Toggle Turkson. He's from Ghana. He works strictly in flip-flops. These are all flip-flops that have been cut, recycled, and created in these collage formats. Patrick lives in the coastal region of Ghana, which a lot of flip-flops, wash ashore, and he recycles them and makes wonderful art out of it. Next slide. This is another artist, Antonio Mene. He's from El Salvador. He also lives in a coastal region. His works, ironically, are also flip-flops, even though him and Patrick have never met. So I thought it's just that pairing of how flip-flops are such an abundance are really problematic in coastal areas. Next shot. This is Taeyeon Kim. She's from South Korea. She does these wonderful large mosaics. Her medium is primary plastic bags, and she sews them together in intricately geometric abstract forms and shapes. Another artist, her name is Cynthia Mene. She's from Los Angeles, California. Her plastics are also acquired from the beaches in her community. And these are she does a lot of life-size animals out of all plastic parts. Next slide. And getting to my work, this is a piece of work that I did. It's called Our Plastic World. It was on display during Cannes Triennial, and it was at 78th Street Studios. These are large cylinder-shaped objects, and they're composed of 3-inch by 3-inch squares that I cut primarily from laundry detergent bottles, juice bottles, and I weave them together with wire into these forms. This is one of my pieces called Plastic Fire. These are melted medicine bottles, and this is actually one of my art hats that I'll talk about a little later. Next slide. This is another one of the mosaics that I created out of plastic laundry detergent bottles. This piece is actually on display right now as a part of my residency at Akron Soul Train. It's also 3-inch by 3-inch squares cut plastic tiles, and I weave them together with wire. And another project that I did was creating mattress furniture companies, and I painted on the plastic sheets, and I cut them out of a robe pattern and sewn them together, and creating these wonderful wearable jackets. And above the jackets are all plastic art hats. Speaking of art hats, I did an art residency at Art House Inc. In 2019, and these were 23 third graders from Denison Elementary. And they each created their own art hat. They made their wire frames, and they embellished the frames with plastics. And this project from the residency sort of grew into a global project, and I incorporated like 15 global artists creating their own art hats. I shipped the wire frames to the artists, and they embellished them with plastics and returned them to me. And this project is called HAF Connects, Sustainable Art of Plastics. We've been exhibiting throughout Cleveland. We just took a show down that was on display at the Beechwood Community Center. We also had a show at Art House Inc. And hopefully we'll be doing more future shows. And we actually published a catalog in regards to this project. This is another one of my pieces. This piece is currently on tour in Europe. It's called Get Out of Your Skull. One good thing about working with High Art Fridays, I've come in contact with a lot of international artists. This project consists of 64 artists from 20 different countries, and they're stopping in Belgium, Netherlands, and the show is currently in France. And each of the artists was mailed out a skull, and they embellished the skull in whatever medium they wanted. Of course, I used plastic. These are the melted plastic medicine bottles and wire, a wire sort of a skull frame. And actually, I was awarded one of Cleveland's Black Sustainability Leaders for my works in plastics. This was presented to me through the Sustainable Cleveland Department. It was along with maybe like 10 other individuals that was awarded this honor. This is actually the catalog, the cover of our art hat project that featured the artists that I was mentioning to you. These are all art hats. This is the project HAF Connects, the Sustainable Art of Plastics. And I still have copies of the catalog. If you're interested, you can order them through my website. And currently I've been doing teaching. This was a project I did this past summer. I've been plastic weaving for the past 3 months. And that's actually the thesis of my residency at Akron Soul Train. I actually created these looms, these handmade looms, and I created like different designs. I have like 7 pieces in the show right now. This project here was created from students at Rainey Institute, the summer camp. They were given 10-inch by 12-inch handmade looms. They wove plastic strips of plastic into the loom, and they created this tapestry, which I joined all the pieces together and created this tapestry. It's like 64 by 66 inches, and I have it hanging in the Rainey lobby. And this project I want to continue throughout the Cleveland community, going to different locations. I also previously did a project at John Marshall High School. They also did a project like this. My goal is to create the minimum of 10 of these tapestries, all created by students in the community, and present a major display exhibition in 2023. This is one of my earlier installation pieces. Yellow is a recurring color theme in my work. Yellow represents to me like caution or warning. This piece here, the yellow strips of plastic are from a construction site. The local gas company was replacing the old steel pipes with polyethylene pipes. And these shavings are actually remnants for this. When they size the pipes, they shave these shavings to size the pipes to fit. And so this project was a part of Rooms to Let in 2019. And it all consists of my work, all plastic derived work. And that's it for me.
Okay, I love that how you kind of got introduced to it and how that really raised your awareness. That's really it's a great story too, and how it kind of changed everything for you.
And that's why I think that's why I'm doing this project, because art has a tremendous power to captivate someone's attention, and then once they see the meaning behind the art, it just makes it more meaningful, and it actually connects with the viewer in a much more meaningful way.
Okay, so Mila, we're gonna move on to you next and present about Reworks.
I just want to say again, good evening to everyone. I'm the Education and Promotion Specialist at Reworks, and I'll be discussing how we share the message of reduce, reuse, recycle via art. And a little housekeeping before I begin. People might wonder, what is Reworks? Our official name is the Summit Akron Solid Waste Management Authority. We have the jurisdiction of Summit County. We were created under Ohio House Bill 592, and we're governed by a 15-member board of trustees. Our mission is to provide solutions and leadership to empower community, institutions, and businesses to utilize environmentally sound, cost-effective recycling and materials management strategies. We have different programs and services that are in the slide kind of showcased in 4 different categories, one being for residents, another being for the different municipalities in the county. Also, we have programs and services for businesses, institutions such as schools. And what we're going to discuss this evening is outreach, in particular, our Creates Work program, which uses art to showcase these messages. Create Works began in 2015, and we decided to utilize the arts in outreach. And we've asked artists to work on a theme around reduce, reuse, recycle, and they've used various mediums and disciplines. We do provide a stipend, and when they apply, there is no fee to apply to become an artist for this program. This picture here is by Mac Love, who did a portrait of Gene Wilder from old toys. In 2015, the CreatesWorks project was Make Art Not Waste, and the artists were given a canvas and asked to use leftover latex paint to address the proper disposal of this material. The picture here is by artist Bill Lehn. Following 2015 and 2016, we had the Upcycle Art Project, where artists were given access to the Goodwill outlet store, and the material there has made its way through all their different stores, and it's going to be going to the landfill if it's not sold at the outlet. So these artists were able to take this material and repurpose it into different art. And the picture here is by Kevin Smalley, and he used floor tiles that he acquired from the outlet store. In 2019, we had Keep It Out of the Cart art. And in this particular case, the goal here was to talk about contamination, because that is an issue in many jurisdictions throughout, not just the United States, but the world. And we went to the MRF, which is a material recovery facility, and we took about 91.5 pounds of contamination directly from the conveyor belt. And again, just to remind everyone, this is material that's taken from people's home recycling carts. So this is all the material that made its way there. We took the material and we kind of divvied it up between scrap metal, plastics, tanglers, electronics, and a random category, which is here in the front, which we titled Random Miscellaneous Junk. And you can see there's a purse, car mats, a chunk of wood, shoe, just really random things. And the artists were tasked with the message to, only use what they were given so that the contamination message would come through. And here you can see the artist, Sophia Calderwood, wearing her trash cape. And she literally cut those pieces of car mats and pants and created a framework of macrame and then placed the other materials in it. And I think this piece in particular is interesting because not only can you see it, but you could actually put it on and feel the weight of contamination as you were wearing it. In 2020, we had a project called Reframing Recycling. And this was based on the common issue we have, which is people think there's recycling rules that someone just determines what is and isn't recyclable. And we really wanted to share the message that what is going into your recycling cart is going to be transformed into a new material. So there has to be a market for that material. And so we asked these local photographers to take an ordinary recyclable, the common ones that we all know of, plastic bottles and jugs, cardboard, paper, cartons, and my brain just stopped. I apologize for missing the last topic. And they were to take 3 photographs, one being of the original material in its unaltered state, then a second photo in its intermediate form, and then the final form. And I'm going to share 3 images that kind of showcase that. Here, the artist is J. Scott Matthews, and his material is carton. And you can see that right here we have the first image, his intermediate step, and then his final image to showcase that transformation of our common recyclables. For this year, it is Reverse Waste in 2021. It is a process to really ask poets to help spread awareness of waste reduction. You do need to be a Summit County resident or a student at a Summit County university or college. There's a little shameless promotion, I apologize. If anyone wants to enter, it is summitreworks.com/reverse waste. Again, there's no fee to enter, and there is a stipend for the artists or poets to actually who are selected. And just to let you know, one of the topics is going to be plastic cups. So we're very interested to see what the poet will come up with for the reduction of plastic cups. And then just to talk a little bit about the value of CreatesWorks and how this art has helped share these messages of reduce, reuse, recycle. I just want to remind everyone, I'm sure you're well aware of it, that people incorporate information in a variety of ways, visually, auditory, kinesthetic. So that helps to actually have this art that people can view. And then also art is inherently interpretive, which encourages the communication between viewers and participants with the work. And then the other thing that's always interesting is we always have these new viewpoints from artists. They see things in different ways. So when you combine someone that's seeing something in a different way with interpretation from various people, it becomes this great dialogue that helps us all see new perspectives. Additionally, one of the things you might wonder is how we share this information and this work. Some things are very straightforward. We have exhibitions where people can come and talk to both Reworks representatives as well as the artists that actually made the work. We found that to be very interesting and a lot of engagement there. Additionally, we also have the work that is shown at libraries. They'll stay up for a month. And in this case, it was Keep It Out of the Cart art. It moved from library to library in the county. And then in conjunction with that, we would have a presentation at the library and talk with different people who came to ask questions. Also things like Akron Soul Train, which we're very happy to be a part of this and help Ron share his message as well. And then also we've taken videos and we do social media posts and pay for ads as well to kind of promote this message in different ways. And then just to talk a little bit about quantifying results, because that is often people wonder, how do you justify what you've done? And I can tell you how many people have come to a presentation and how many people walk through the library at a given day. And I don't know if that's always significant and if it's the best way to represent this results of this art for CreateWorks. One thing I would like to mention is the concept of longevity and timeliness. I'm not likely to share an ad or a flyer from 1 or 2 years ago, but one of the first images that you looked at this evening in this presentation was a painting done by Lehn in 2015, 6 years ago. So this art kind of stands on its own and you can still have a conversation and talk about these messages that are related to it as well. And I kind of see that using CreateWorks and the arts to help share these messages of reduce, reuse, recycle is like prepping your soil. There's a lot of different elements that need to be all at the right level, whether it's pH and the mixture of compost to sand to clay, or different critters that need to come in. But once you get the right mix of elements, it just kind of takes off and blossoms. One of the last things I'd like to leave with is a moment of serendipity. I had sent out a reminder on Friday of upcoming events through our newsletter. And one of the artists that had been participating in one of our projects from before reached out to me because they had seen some work from another artist and they thought of what the project they had worked on and they had seen tanglers, and I'm going to share this image that she gave. And this is, I think, really key. She took the time to share this image. I'm now taking the time to share this image with you. She used the right terminology, which was tanglers for this material. And then on top of it, she hadn't worked with this material. So that sense of how you can't always quantify things from a very discrete, there was this many numbers of people and this result led to that. However, you can show this kind of gestalt thing, which shows that people are, it's on their minds, it sticks in their heads, and you can reuse it and talk about it in different ways. And then last but not least, I just want to say thank you to all the previous artists that have been involved with this project, CreateWorks, for a long while. And then if anyone has questions, again, I'm with Reworks. My name is Mila, and here's my contact information. And I just want to say thank you for letting me share.
I love how you use even like beyond visual art, because I think when people think of art and using recyclable materials or anything, they think purely visual art. So the poetry aspect is so like genius and different and reaching out to all the different ways. And it's a very creative way of using that project as well.
Thank you. We're hoping that waste reduction works well with just simple words rather than an actual thing that's being created while we're trying to reduce. So thank you.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And I love how you talked about how art is something that sticks with you or that you share years and years later. And that making it such a powerful tool for this.
Yes. So thank you.
Okay. And then Cathi, you want to set up your part of the presentation. Once again, if anyone is having any questions or anything, please put them in the comment section and we will get to them when we have our kind of discussion part.
Okay, thank you. My name again is Cathi Lehn, and I'm with the City of Cleveland Mayor's Office of Sustainability. And I'd like to just take a couple minutes to talk about art and the circular economy, and also about a new initiative that the city has just launched called Circular Cleveland. So what Ron and Mila have been talking about is upcycling, or taking a product that would otherwise be thrown away and giving it a new purpose or a new use. And I'd like to bring upcycling around to our new initiative called Circular Cleveland. This was just launched earlier this year with funding provided by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. To this initiative, they have given almost $500,000. And that was to the City of Cleveland and our partners, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress and Neighborhood Connections. Also, another partner, our international partner, is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a global think tank for the circular economy globally. So what do we mean when we refer to a circular economy? Well, the circular economy is in contrast to the economy that we're in right now, which can be defined as take, make, waste. We take resources from the land or from the ground, we make a product, and then in our disposable society, we throw it away. What we need to do is transition to a circular economy, which reduces waste and pollution, keeps products and materials in use by reuse and repair, and restores and renews nature. This new economy will create wealth and opportunities. And we're all very familiar with practices in the circular economy. We just haven't called it the circular economy before. But I know when I think about the circular economy, I kind of think back to how grandma and grandpa, did things. They did not waste things. They reused things. They composted, they recycled, they repaired things. And that's really what we're talking about in the circular economy. And for tonight's discussion, we're really focusing on reuse. And what we need to do in the circular economy is to start thinking about things differently than we have before. I mean, we're all very familiar with reduce, reuse, and recycle. We need to put less emphasis on the recycle and more on the reduce and reuse. And as Ron and Mila have both mentioned, art can really make us think, and it has done this for centuries. It can inspire our behavior to change and shape a cultural debate. So what's the message with upcycling and the message that Ron and Mila have been talking about, and what Ron's artwork really shows us. What's the message there? Well, as again, Ron mentioned, it's all about plastics and the impact of plastics on our environment, on our wildlife, and our own health. Most of the materials that Ron has been using are packaging. About 42% of all plastic waste is packaging. And the majority of that packaging is only used once. It's estimated that, for instance, a plastic grocery bag is only used for about 12 minutes. But you'd think that plastic bag was made out of fossil fuels. So something that took, millions of years to create, we use and dispose of in just 12 minutes. Very little of plastic waste is recycled. Most of it is lost, and a good percentage of it will never be reused or recycled. So we've all heard about the impact that our plastic trash is having on our waters. Especially we hear about it, about the oceans and the amount of waste that ends up in our oceans every year. And we all see the plastic trash that's in our streets and litter in our streets. We also see that trash on our beaches. In fact, this is a photo from a beach in Hawaii. I thought beaches in Hawaii were supposed to be pristine, but they're not all that way. And we know too that our plastic waste has an impact on our wildlife. Wildlife, not only marine wildlife, but animals also on land, are ingesting or eating our plastic trash. And if they're not eating it, they might be getting tangled up in it. And here's some examples. And again, this is animals on land and in the water. And this plastic trash is not just the big pieces. What we need to worry about are also these microplastics, or these bigger pieces of plastic when they're hit with sunlight or with waves. They break up into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics. But these plastics don't only impact the environment and our wildlife, but they also impact us. And this is an area that's being researched right now. We know that we've found microplastics in food and beverages that we all eat and drink every day. So is this having an impact on our health? Well, as I mentioned, that research is still being done, but the prospects don't look very good. And there probably is a very good chance that our health is also being impacted. So getting back to Ron's exhibit that's being shown at Akron Soul Train, his message here, and the message to take away, is that we need to consider what we are doing with plastics and what kind of impact that plastic and plastic packaging is having on our lives. And so the message is, this is a lot of really bad news, but what we need to do is just keep calm, but take action. And the first action that we can all take is, again, what Ron mentioned on how he got started on this journey, is just do a plastic waste audit in your home or in your office or at school, and think about all the plastic that you use. And once you start really paying attention to it, it's a pretty good chance you're going to be amazed at how much plastic there is and how much of it is used for packaging and what brands are the most commonly used plastic items. And then once you've done that plastic waste audit, then you can start to reduce, reuse, recycle, but also think about all the other R's, especially rethink. Rethink your purchases and rethink your actions as it relates to plastic. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'll turn it back over to Meryl.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That was really informative. I like the aspect of starting to see these kind of art practices and how they can affect actual things that we can do, how we can put practices kind of in action. So I think my first question, I'm going to start, is for Ron, but I more so maybe, but ladies, you can totally jump in, because I think having the knowledge or working with plastics, has that changed your everyday like practices, your everyday life? And ladies, like having this knowledge, have you seen how, I guess there's a lot of kind of big concepts that can feel kind of intimidating to start actually putting things into practice. So, oh, Ron, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah. There.
Yeah, it has changed my life in not so good of a way. I mean, I realize how ubiquitous plastic is whenever I go in the grocery store. It's just everywhere. So that it has changed. It's a slow process of me actually changing my habits to conform, but because I'm so overwhelmed with it in my own life. So slowly, little by little, I'm actually changing the way I incorporate plastics. But the plastics that I do get, I basically recycle them into an art form. So it really has changed my life dramatically.
Okay, sorry, I'm having a little bit of a computer glitch. Okay, it stopped. That was very strange. I was getting playback. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, great. So once again, if you're tuning in and you have any questions for any of our panelists, do you guys have any questions for each other on things that were talked about?
I just want to say I really admire and respect Mila and how they've taken initiatives to really incorporate art in waste, which Cleveland has not done to that level, that degree. And I think Cleveland should take note of that and sort of incorporate more practices where include art and the recycling aspect. Cleveland has not done to that level, to that degree. Maybe is it something?
Okay, are we all good?
I heard a feedback there for a minute.
Yeah, my computer is doing very strange things. I think it's gone. I'm sorry about that, everyone. Okay. So Ron, what was your question? Was it to Mila?
Yeah. How did the Reworks project get started? Who initiated it? And how could maybe Cleveland implement something like that?
The project CreateWorks started in different phases. That's the thing to keep in mind. It wasn't all at once. It originally started before I was even working at Reworks, and they had just the idea of with latex paint and trying to get the message out, and they were working with our marketing firm to come up with an idea. And then slowly, as time has progressed and different people have gotten into the mix, like myself and our executive director, Marcy Kress, she said, I really want to take this and kind of make it into a bigger process. And we came up with the name Createworks, which is a play on Reworks, which is our name. And we've kind of just morphed over time and learned as we've been working. And it's been a very organic process, and I'm using that in the very loose term of the word. And I think it's just, any group could start it. It's just a process of trial and error at first and kind of building from a foundation. And we're always here to help with any questions that anyone would have. It's really just, we were very fortunate to have people who are willing to try this out, and it's been blossoming and growing ever since. So we're very fortunate.
Let's see. Stephen Calhoun is asking, how might creativity impact innovations in packaging paradigms? So I think this is kind of talking about when Cathi mentioned how plastic packaging
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Damn. Oh, sorry. Did you hear the question? I'm sorry, my computer is doing very strange things.
I think I did get the question. And I think the answer to that question is really a new report that's come out from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation called Upstream Innovations, which gives about 100 different alternatives to plastic packaging, using either eliminating the packaging altogether, recirculating the material either by recycling or composting, or by reusing materials. And there's a lot of really innovative ideas that are coming out of that report. And it really looks at what the producer, the manufacturer can do to design out waste from the very beginning. Right now in our take, make, waste society, manufacturers have said that the responsibility for disposing of a product lies with the consumer. What the circular economy really does is put that responsibility on the manufacturer to figure out what is done with that product when the consumer is done with it. So I'd really encourage, was it Stephen, to look at Upstream Innovations through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. There's a lot of really neat stuff going on.
That's amazing that artists, creative thinkers can be working on almost on both sides, like what to do with the waste and what to do to eliminate it in the to start with.
And I don't know.
Design is very important. Sorry.
I don't know if I could add something from a past example. One of the artists that was in our Reframing Recycling, her name was Kathleen Gallagher, and she had received the material of cardboard, and she actually looked into the history of cardboard, and it actually was kind of an interesting process of how it was formed. The man who invented it was named Robert Gare, and he was a paper bag manufacturer, and he had miscut some paper bags while he was working on his bags. And he noticed the corrugation, and from that, he was able to start what we now use as cardboard boxes. So I'm just saying sometimes innovation comes from a mistake as well as reusing, not taking that material and just saying, oh, it was a mistake, I have to discard it, but can you reuse it and come up with some other use for it? And cardboard is amazing. And we thank Robert Gare.
Another question for, I guess, just as an artist, One thing I find really interesting about using these kind of, I guess you would call them alternative materials, is there's not a lot of rules that come with them, right? So when a lot of people are studying art, there's this kind of almost rigidity to things where it's like painting must be paint and this must be this and this must be made out of this and it's done with all these techniques. Ron, I think you're kind of seeing in the artists that you showed that you were inspired by, they solved their own problems in making what they wanted to create out of the materials that were available to them. So there's almost no rules, and it does take a lot of problem solving. So how has that kind of impacted you when you started even using the materials, like figuring out how to work with it? Oh, I think you're muted again. That's okay.
It was all experimental, but I had great mentors or muses to help guide me. But as I developed, I experimented with different techniques. One of which is a more toxic method is by melting plastic, melting those medicine bottles. It creates such an organic, like fluid shape. It almost looks like glass. And that was the most unique methodology that I've employed with plastics. Though I did wear a respirator because it is probably the most toxic methods. By applying heat to plastics is not a really good mix. But that was one of the most experimental and innovative methods that I used, that I was really impressed and pleased with the results.
Yeah, and then all of you do programs for like the youth in the community. How important do you think it is to introduce these ideas early and kind of have them do their own innovations like as early as possible? Anyone can kind of jump in on that.
Well, get them while they're young. I mean, the youth are impressionable. I mean, education is key, and education in the way of having fun and creating art as a sidebar, as a message is paramount. A good example is the summer project I did with Rainey. We talked about, I interviewed the students initially before the class started about how they viewed plastics, and a large amount of them, referred to how animals in the ocean are ingesting plastics. So I educated them about plastics, and we worked on our art projects. Then Cathi Lehn came in and did a talk to the whole student body at Rainey, and gave an informal speech about plastics. And so then at the end of the class, I interviewed the students again, and they were more knowledgeable just by listening to Cathi and what she interjected about plastics. So I think youth are, that's the age to get them, is when they're young.
Well, and then the hope is always that those students go home and then educate their parents about what they just learned.
Yeah, definitely.
So I do want to add one feature to that. We've also found that adults have if I'm going to use the term plastic in terms of a good thing, with a plastic brain willing to learn new things. And we found that age is really not a barrier. You can introduce these topics to anyone, regardless of how old they are. And it's more about if they have an interest, regardless if they're young or old, and the willingness to kind of take on some new information. And we found it to be very helpful to work with all ages. So that's just our experience on this end, but yes.
Oh, definitely. I think that, am I getting feedback again? Okay, no. Sorry, my computer is giving me strange feedback every time I try to look at the actual Facebook Live. So I apologize to anyone tuning in that happened. But I think that sometimes this whole concept of waste or sustainability or what is happening to the environment can get very large and overwhelming in people's minds, and kind of doing these small kind of art projects and learning these small different ways is it's a way that people can digest something maybe a little bit easier, use their creative thinking, and then it can lead to a next step. Have you guys kind of like witnessed that at all?
I'll speak at this point, if that's okay. I have noticed that. I have been with just regular everyday residents who have come across some of these pieces, even while I'm installing them at different locations, and they'll be like, what is that? And you stop and have a conversation, and they have this moment where you just kind of see their eyes, where it's like it clicks that, oh my gosh, I've been putting that into the recycling cart at home, and now I realize I shouldn't. I'm going to tell everyone. And you might not have had that if you had just, said, hey, this is what you need to do, because they didn't see it. And that piece of art really kind of just takes them out of like, I'm not in a school, I'm not being talked down to, I'm looking at a piece of art that I'm participating with, and then I can have a dialogue with someone. And I think that's the beauty of why it's so important for like what Ron's doing with showcasing the work. So you can actually say, oh my gosh, all those are flip-flops, and he collected them from the beach. And there's someone on the other side of the world who's doing a similar thing with the same type of material, also collected from the beach. And it just kind of shows that connectivity. And it's just amazing to me still. I love having these conversations with people about it.
That was what was so powerful about this international connection. These artists did not know each other, and yet they were using the same medium, doing the same thing. And High Art Friday actually, this platform brought these people together, and people that did not know that the other artists in another part of the world was doing the same thing. So it was just, it's an interesting project.
Okay.
And if I can add that, I think it relates to what Cathi was talking about with that waste audit, where you can actually reflect on what's going on in your life. Sometimes it might be a thing where you are going to collect all your plastics like Ron did for a while, and other times it might just be reflecting on what you feel you can accomplish by taking a small task. And it's that process. It's a slow process, but as long as they're doing something and rethinking, that's the most important thing.
I've definitely noticed that in my own practice. I work on paper, and I tend to not to keep all of my quote unquote scraps, so that, because I know that I'll be able to reuse them in a future piece down the line. And so I think that it's awesome that that this kind of practice can go with whatever material someone is working with. There are ways to reuse it or reduce how you're using it or something. It doesn't, we're talking about plastics, but this is kind of, it can be applied in a lot of different ways. Okay, I'm gonna try to check the comments one more time without my computer freaking out. If you have any other questions and you're watching this after the live, you can still comment and I will try to get to them. I will also try to get the contact information for everyone on the panel in the comments. They are on the live stream that you can rewatch. So we'll see how good I am at getting that in there. Okay. So I just really like to thank Ron, Cathi, and Mila for their work here and putting on this amazing presentation and discussion, and to thank everyone for tuning in. Once again, Ron's work for Akron Soul Train will be showing alongside Nicole Condon-Shee as part of Woven, the Human X Nature Relationship, that opens tomorrow, September 8th, and will run through October 23rd. So it'll be in the gallery until October 23rd. We also are showing Ephraim Nehemiah. His work Out of No Way will be in the capsule gallery for that same duration. Our gallery hours are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 4 p.m. And we will be having extended opening hours Friday, September 10th until 7 p.m. And I believe that some of the artists are going to be there. Ron, are you coming on Friday?
Yes, I plan to be there around 5 or 6.
That sounds awesome. So if you have any questions that you want to ask him personally, that is the time to come. Okay, once again, thank you all. And we're going to end. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.